So I kind of wanted to go over the top 5 issues with the different states, and there's different variations that we covered in more detail in the webinar. But the recap was state of New Jersey. Oh my goodness, we have talked about this for a decade and a half, and it still shocks me how many recruiters don't know, and staffing firms as well, is you have to be licensed in the state of New Jersey to be in the staffing and recruiting business. And if you're not, then you lose your ability to Well, hello everyone. This is Wilson Cole, and I'm president of Adams, Evans, and Ross. And we recently did a webinar that got a lot of response. And for the ones that weren't able to attend, I want to give a kind of a recap, because at least the most important aspects of that webinar to kind of use going forward. And basically, the name of the webinar was 50 states, 50 different groups of laws. And one thing here in the U.S., which is a little confusing for especially non-U.S. nationals, is that you have federal law, which kind of, supersedes and goes over. It's the top layer. And then you have the state laws. And with the state laws, it's just, there's variations to where there may be some similarities. There could be some things that are just at polar opposites. And then there's also state regulations, which are where they in essence pass these regulations that are in essence like laws and can carry some of the same effect. So I kind of wanted to go over the top 5 issues with the different states, and there's different variations that we covered in more detail in the webinar. But the recap was state of New Jersey. Oh my goodness, we have talked about this for a decade and a half, and it still shocks me how many recruiters don't know, and staffing firms as well, is you have to be licensed in the state of New Jersey to be in the staffing and recruiting business. And if you're not, then you lose your ability to use your court system. And to kind of put that in perspective is, if you do business in the state of New Jersey and they don't pay you, you cannot sue them in their court system, so you don't get paid. And it even goes more so than that. One of our New Jersey attorneys kind of summed it up this way. He says, it's an absolute defense. So it doesn't matter what the criteria is. You can have signed contracts, you can have promises to pay, but if you're not registered in the state of New Jersey and that debtor is sitting in the state of New Jersey, you cannot sue them in the state of New Jersey. Now, we run them through collections all the time, and occasionally we even have lawsuits in the state of New Jersey where a client is not licensed. But if the debtor brings it up, it becomes a problem. And in the last 15, 20 years, we've seen it brought up as a defense about 5 or 6 times. And the problem with it is, not only is it that you can't sue them, but it gets dismissed and you cannot bring it back into court even in another state. So it gets dismissed prejudice. So you've got that going on. Another state, and this was one that was kind of new to the radar, but it's the state of South Carolina of all things. And it kind of cracks me up in the state of South Carolina. South Carolina cracks me up for 2 reasons. Number one, and this is number 2 and number 3. Number one, you have to be licensed as a recruiter in the state of South Carolina. And if you're not, it's a crime. I mean, just kind of crazy. And it's also overseen by the bar. And so that's the problem that you run into there. I don't know if the attorneys just needed more work in the state of South Carolina, but if you're doing business in the state of South Carolina, you need to be registered. The third one, and it's also in South Carolina and a few other states as well, but we have stopped recommending people have suit filed in South Carolina because it's a non-garnishable state. Now, we'll still run things through collections, and if a client says, no, we want to go ahead and have suit filed, we will, but we'll also give them the kind of this little footnote is it's a non-garnishable state. So if you sue them and you win and you get a judgment, in most other states, you can reach over, grab the money once you get a judgment out of, reach into their account and pull funds out of their bank account. You can also, have vendors redirect payments from the debtor over to you. There's ways that you can attach. In the state of South Carolina, you cannot garnish. So, you can bring them back into court and the judge says you really do need to pay this, but they're not going to throw them in jail for not paying it because they got rid of debtors' prisons, a couple of centuries ago. So that's the other one. Also, interesting enough, in the state of North Carolina, and this is something that we touched on a little bit, is in the state of North Carolina, there's a law on the books. We just had one of our clients, get threatened with it. But as the North Carolina attorney looked into it, it's a paper tiger. It basically says, hey, you have to be registered in the state of North Carolina if you're a recruiter. And we thought, oh God, is there another one of these? What's going on with this? But if you look back at it, it's an old state law. And it also says if, and this is the big key that our North Carolina attorney had pointed out to us and pointed out to the debtor, was if the candidate is responsible for the job. So, or paying for the job. If the financial responsibility, and I'm kind of giving away my age, and it was pretty much, I say giving away my age. I had been servicing this industry since the early 90s, and pretty much the model had changed even by then, that it was a company paid fee, not a candidate paid fee. If you go back into the 80s, it was certainly a little bit different. So if an attorney for the debtor says, hey, you're in North Carolina, you got to be registered, or you're in trouble, give us a shout. We'll connect you with our North Carolina attorney that can certainly set the record straight. So that's the fourth one. The fifth one that I want all clients to realize, that in most states, not in all, but in most states, if you do not have a signed agreement where they agree to pay reasonable attorney's fees, collection costs, late fees, and things on those lines, you cannot ask for them either in collections or if it goes to suit. Now, the caveat that I want to throw in there is realistically through collections, they're going to have to voluntarily pay that. They rarely do. So don't bank on that getting collected. But if you have to sue them, if you have a signed agreement, we can ask the courts to award those on there. A third of the time, our forwarding attorneys get all of those fees. A third of the time, they get none of the fees. And a third of the time, they get somewhere in between. But just understand that if it's not in your agreement, in most states, you're not going to be able to ask for those. And so the recap of that webinar, basically, and we went through some other state laws as well, but just understand what is true in one state. I'm sitting in Atlanta, Georgia. There's going to be slight nuances to drastic differences based on another state, whether it be in Illinois or New Jersey or Massachusetts. And that's another one that we had discussed in Massachusetts. Their Supreme Court has ruled if you don't have a signed contract, you don't have an agreement. Not necessarily the case down in Texas. So join us on those webinars. I think you guys would certainly get some benefit of it. And if you would like to set up a time to speak with me or one of our staff attorneys about a collection issue that you're having, visit us over at staffingdebt.com. And just click on the 30-minute consultation. It's a free consultation where we can go through the specifics of your collection and what we feel the collectability would be. And please let me know if we can help. Thanks. Hey guys, it's Wilson again, and this video was brought to you by Adams, Evans, and Ross. And if you like the video, please make sure that you click on the subscribe button and also like the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below as well. If you'd like to learn more about our company, please visit our website at staffingdebt.com. And also remember, if there's no collection, there's absolutely no cost at all.